Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen Originals podcast. I'm Chris Page, I'm joined by Dan Clubb, Peter Kenny-Jones and John Machin subbing in for his son, Paul Machin, for this week. Looking forward to this one, gentlemen. Not looking forward to talking about Manchester United beating Liverpool. To be honest with you, I've tried to avoid all conversations around it and I've got slowly worse as the day's gone on. Over the last 24 hours, I've got more annoyed, I think, as time has passed. It's a little bit gutting. Anyway, before we begin, we do have 1 week, less than a week, until our live show in Belfast on the 24th. There are a handful of tickets left now, so if you want them, you can go to ticketmaster.ie, bag yourself what promises to be a ticket to the best show in town. And then a week today, we'll be in Dublin on the 25th of March. Again, just I think 2 handfuls of tickets left for Dublin before they sell out. So looking forward to that one. We go on the 24th, fly into Belfast, get the train to Dublin on the 25th and fly home. So it is a whistle-stop tour, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. Anyway, I've put it off long enough. We do have to talk about Manchester United 4, Liverpool 3. John, I'll start with you. How painful was it?
Very. I've spent my whole life with us getting beat in the cup by United. We hardly ever seem to beat them. It just seems inevitable. And when you're actually totally in control of a game of football and leading, you just want to put to bed and out the way quickly because it's United. And that made it all the worse, the fact that we didn't. Yeah,
it wasn't good, was it, Peter? I mean, there's so many questions that come out of the back of the game, really, isn't there? But one thing is, I think the starting 11 we put out was probably the best we've been able to put out in weeks and weeks, and maybe one of the worst performances.
I feel scared to say because I feel like a lot of people disagree with me, but I actually don't feel like we played terribly. I thought, obviously United came out flying, probably could have, should have been 2 up. Obviously, Kelleher makes that good save for McTominay's second, but I think from then on, I thought that the half was ours, and the second half we were playing like we were 5-0 up, and that's the issue. But we were like dominating the game. We were taking the mick out of them. Obviously looking at like how much space we had, but like Fernandes throwing his arms around, it just felt like we had them, and the crowd was quiet, but we just didn't get that third goal. And I think it's very easy to say, but if we score our third goal, I think we're all saying we dominated the game at Old Trafford and we did really well. Obviously, it's to then concede it and then get another equaliser, concede again, and then concede again. It is gutting. It's 2 very late goals, but I'm optimistic. Maybe trying to put a positive spin is probably the better way of saying it, but I feel like there's ways to lose a game, and we deserve to get beat by Arsenal. I don't think we necessarily deserve to get beat by United, but if you can see 4 goals, you're not going to win many games, are you? So as much as I understand the negativity, I do try and think mildly positively about how I thought we did dominate the game for large parts.
Peter mentioned there, Dan, that they were better in the first few minutes. It was a sluggish start from Liverpool again, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, massively so. Yeah, I think Peter's right to reference, we've got to credit Manchester United in that instance because they did start well. They had obviously the crowd behind them and stuff like that, and they did come flying out the blocks, and maybe that caught us off guard a little bit. Maybe we expected more of the approach and what they brought to Anfield, of course, where they were very passive, very negative in the way they went about their business. They were sort of sat back, sat deep, and maybe we thought we were going to be more of the same, but it wasn't. They were at us, they were in our faces, and they were on the front foot, and yeah, maybe that did catch us off guard because we weren't at it for large parts of the first 30-20 minutes maybe, but I think by and large we've been that way inclined for much of the season, haven't we? We've been sluggish starters quite a lot. It's very rare. I mean, Sparta Prague in midweek is sort of the outlier to that, but generally speaking we haven't started games particularly fast, I think it's fair to say. So it's not a huge surprise. We've kind of grown into games. We've been second half FC quite a lot this season. Subs and game management have been kind of a way of going about navigating games of football, so it's not a huge shock that is the way it panned out. And like I say, maybe it was a little bit okay, these fancy it all of a sudden, but yeah, having said all of that, Liverpool have to start games better because you referenced to Kelleher save. There's a couple of moments you could conceivably be 2 or 3 down by the time we've got going in that opening 20 minutes, and that's just not good enough. It was similar against Manchester City a week earlier, and we're not fortunate, that's a bit of a stretch, but we're relatively lucky that they're not as clinical maybe as they could have been, because we could easily have been 2-0 down inside 15 minutes. All of a sudden you're chasing the game massively early doors.
Yeah. John, I think the Garnacho goal, the first one for them, Sorry, it wasn't Garnacho. Garnacho was the free runner, wasn't he?
Yeah.
What happened there? Because I've watched it back a few times. Like, sometimes you look back just to see if you can apportion some blame. Is it just good movement from Garnacho, or is there
It's
a
terrific
problem?
movement, but at the same time, we were passive. We were standing still, and they weren't, and that was the big difference. And that was the key to that goal, wasn't it? The fact that he managed to get so free in the box, and we were all standing around. And they did that to us a few times, to be honest, early on. Lots of movement on their left, and us not picking up the extra man. So I think that was the key to it. I think we were a bit unlucky with that goal, though. You know, it's a great save from Keller. And, you know, the actual finish, well, you know, 100 times out of, 120, he'd fall on his backside, wouldn't he? But he managed to get a foot to it and stick it in the net. And that got them up. But, I mean, having said they dominated the game early on, the fact is, by the time we got to the second half, we totally turned that around. That we'd negated what they'd done early on in the game and totally controlled it. And it was all about whether we had whatever it was, the legs, whatever, to stick the ball in the net for a third time. And that was the key to the game. We just let them in. I mean, let's not forget, the 60-odd thousand or 70,000 Man United supporters bay in for blood, and we're playing away from home in one of the worst places to play. And, you know, we're totally controlling the game. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks the players didn't want it. You know, I mean, maybe they watched us play every game 2 seasons ago and then all burn out the following season and decide, the Klopp might want all these trophies, but we'll settle for 3. I mean, that would explain why they just didn't go for the throws, because they had them there on their knees, didn't they, basically?
Well, the way, to be fair, though, the way that McAllister was hunched over at the end of the game suggested he did want to go for everything, didn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just being flippant. I just think we did seem to run out of legs a bit, though, didn't we, in that game?
Certainly in extra time.
Yeah.
I mean, you are right, though, because it is relatively inexplicable, the second half, to me. That's what I can't quite fathom, even to this day. We're 24 hours on, more or less, from the actual game now. And I still can't quite get my head around or come to terms with not putting them to the sword in the second half, because they were there for the taking. And it did feel, you referenced it a moment ago, Peter, it did feel as though we were far clear in the scoreline. It was 2 or 3 4 goals disparity between us. That's kind of how it felt, the way we were going about our business. We were just toying with them. It was like that 5-0 game where we spent the last half an hour like a training exercise, reserving energy for what was to come. And we spoke about it last night as if it was as if we were playing with one eye on a game we had on Wednesday night. They say, we'll just save our energy now. These are done. Don't worry about these. We'll keep them at arm's length. It's done. But you can't do that in games of football, because to come back to the Old Trafford thing, there's bound to be a moment.
Also, we didn't have a game Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but that's how it looked like. It looked like
right.
we were 2-3 goals up and it was just dead easy. It was a bit of a cakewalk, a nice afternoon in the sun at Old Trafford. Here we go again. Isn't this lovely? We're miles better than you. But that wasn't reflected in the scoreline. So it was a strange approach, because it felt like at any moment we could just click into gear, and there was the 5-on-2, the 4-on-2, all them details. But the manner with which we went out about our business and not putting into the sword feels really odd to me.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think, we're obviously going to come on to some of the 5-on-2s and the 4-on-2s and all that later on. But, I must admit, I want to take it back to that first goal again, Peter, because I watched it back quite a lot. And first of all, I'm looking at Andy Robertson going, well, it's good movement and there's another man there, so Robertson probably can't go with him. There was a push on the back from Gomez to Kwanzaa that probably struck me as odd, because the two of them both bombed onto their winger, and one of them probably should have been in position. It was Gomez pushing Kwanzaa to the right back position, even though he was the right back. And I was looking at that going, why did that happen? Like, are we just being over exuberant in trying to win the ball back from that particular situation and maybe not thinking of the long game? And actually, when I think about that and I think about the performance in general, that might have been what Liverpool did all game. Like, certainly when you got, shooting right to the end here, but we've pretty much sent everyone up by Conor Bradley for a corner,
in the last
seconds of a game. It just seemed odd to me and not very Liverpool.
Yeah, but I think Klopp always talks about the partnerships, doesn't he? I think Quansah and Gomez, I can't imagine, off the top of my head, I can't imagine they've spent a lot of time playing right back and right centre back with each other. And as you said, it looked a bit confused, and they both did exactly, they both like carbon copies of each other, both went the man, stood still, let the one behind them go, and then they scored a goal. And it was just a bit odd. You're right. That's what it felt like, and it was strange that we didn't play Conor Bradley there. I think I'm no issue at all with Joe Gomez playing, but I think Conor Bradley just thought we can, if we're gonna go for it and try and score goals, maybe you then bring Gomez on when they're maybe having a good spell in the game. And it was just it just seemed like maybe Klopp had too many options for once, and that was what killed us. And we've been so used to being, as you said, backs against the wall.
Gomez at right back was smacked of he wanted experience in that part of the field, and yet it was that part of the field where they were back from problems.
But that Rashford playing on that side, he always causes a problem. Did Trent?
I think maybe that was what worried him. But
definitely.
I mean, Bradley played them better than anyone.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I thought it was odd, because I thought he'd have started Bradley, and I said I think Klopp was overly worrying, and for once he had a choice, and he made the choice of. And I said I don't think picking Gomez to play there is a wrong choice. It just seemed odd that we made that decision.
I've got a theory about this. I mentioned it to you last night, and I think at the moment he's got one flying fullback and Joe Gomez essentially, and whichever side the flying fullback is on, Gomez is on the other. Be that left back, be that right back. I also think that's linked to why McAllister and Szoboszlai switched from midweek in Sparta. I don't know necessarily if this is a thing, but we saw in midweek McAllister on the right, Szoboszlai on the left, Joe Gomez playing left back. Joe Gomez moves to right back, you switch to number 8. Now I don't know tactically if that's something the Klopp's seen, but it does strike me at the moment that maybe he doesn't want Robertson and Conor Bradley in at fullback, both bombing on away from home at Old Trafford. So in that regard, it kind of made sense for him to play Gomez as well as dealing with Rashford.
Yeah, but there has to be a rationale behind it, and that makes as much sense as any I've managed to fathom right now. Certainly when it comes to the 8 as well, because McAllister and Szoboszlai switching sides just felt very, okay, that's a bit of a shock, hasn't it, up until this point? And again, it happened yesterday, so the fullback thing does make a lot of sense in that sense. But you mentioned it there, Klopp and his use of right backs at Old Trafford has been a bit of a story throughout his tenure, hasn't it, really? How often was it Gomez instead of Trent for defensive stability and all that sort of stuff in years gone by? And I think also you mentioned experience. He had been reticent to be Quansah and Bradley for quite some time, and likewise on the other side as well, when he was ever going to be two inexperienced sides alongside each other, he kind of avoided that where possible. He's gone away from that recently, partly because circumstances dictated he had to, and maybe the manner and the magnitude of the games meant that he could get away with it, but it did feel as though he had the option to get a bit more experience alongside Quansah at a place like Old Trafford. Difficult that can be for a Liverpool player, of course, and with Garnacho and Rashford causing problems, he definitely opted for that added experience, that defensive stability as well, because as good as Conor Bradley is, Joe Gomez, stock in trade, is out and out attribute, if you like, is his defensive ability. So it didn't shock me that it was Gomez, but in hindsight, and everyone's an expert with it, of course, it might have been a better decision to stick with the hot hand at the minute, which, as good as Gomez has been in recent weeks, he's predominantly been as a left back, or even a 6 a little bit as well. Conor Bradley at right back has been outstanding, so not to play him did feel a little bit strange to me, but as you say, there could be more to it and we're not quite worked out yet.
Well, as well as Robertson played a lot in midweek. I mean, I know it was an easy game, but he was captain, wasn't he? And he was centre back as well. I never thought he'd start him because of that. I thought Gomez would start left back.
It was a bit of an odd one, wasn't it? But then another player who started, obviously, John, I'll stick with you on this one, Jarell Quansah, got a nickname at one point during the game by somebody in the YouTube comments, Jarell the Gazelle, because of the manner in which he was striding forward, which I particularly enjoyed. And he ghosts past, I think it's first Fernandes and then Rashford for Liverpool's equaliser, and he is just impressing every single time he takes the field, isn't he?
Well, he went through and had a shot the other day, didn't he? And he seems to be developing that part of his game. There's sort of Joel Matip in him coming out, maybe on the training field they're saying to him, that's the next stage of your development, is to be able to come out with the ball, because it's so important you have centre-backs who can do that. I've been really impressed with him, and I don't think defensively we were great at all, for long periods in that game yesterday, but he's a young lad, and he's looking like the future to me,
And the fact that he can play both sides as well just sort of adds all the strings.
I think he's better on the left as well, to be honest.
Long-term successes for Virgil.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect combo with Van Dijk and Matip. But that yesterday, that run was Matip-esque, as you said, and his performance, everyone, it's so easy to compare him to Van Dijk. So if you get a Van Dijk-Matip collaboration in one player who's 21, an academy product who hasn't cost us anything, you can't really ask for much more, can you?
And the goal, Dan, to cracking little shot from Alexi McAllister. Obviously takes a little deflection before it goes in.
No, he takes it well. It's a good strike, isn't it? And Darwin Núñez's assist as well is really intelligent play, because he could have easily tried to take a touchdown and get a shot of himself, but to spot McAllister and to execute the pass so he can hit it is a really well taken goal. It's a really well worked goal. Joel Quanza's influence on it is massive, of course, and I've been, just to echo what these guys are saying, I've been really, really, really impressed with Joel Quanza. He's just been exceptional since he walked into the side, essentially, and he's, you know, more than earned a place in Liverpool's first team plans for the foreseeable future and definitely for the long term. And it's fascinating how he spoke this week about tapping into the defenders in around him and taking little bits from each of the games. You can definitely see that. I think he's got the perfect sort of blend, and he's got the perfect people around him to talk to and to learn from as well. He's in a very, very good environment, and we're seeing the fruits of that as well right now. But yeah, the goal's really nice, and Liverpool felt like, I said this to you last night actually, it felt like the minute Liverpool got any sort of joy and played the way we can, we were always going to create big chances, because the amount of times, even when we weren't playing particularly well in the first half, if we did put 2 or 3 passes together, we were just in acres of space in behind their midfield. I know Josh Williams, obviously we do a lot with Josh, he posted a picture yesterday, he said he's going to frame it of, like, I think it's Dom Szoboszlai running into like 50 yards of space essentially, and Manchester United's midfield was a little bit all over the place at times. So the minute we strung anything like a recognisable passage of play together, we were always going to get joy. We had the Endo disallowed goal as well before that, so it wasn't a great surprise to me that once we either put passes together or someone like Quanza took the onus upon themselves to drive forwards, something was going to happen, and it did.
It felt to me like the first 15-20 minutes was working out how to get past their mid-block. It wasn't a press per se, was it? It was very much
Mainu,
on the halfway.
Loads of space.
Mainu was playing really well, wasn't
him and McTominay were both really good. And once we realised that actually you can just play the ball into the 8 along the floor instead of passing it round them, it became a lot easier, and that's where the Dom Szoboszlai one comes in, doesn't it? And then we were on the front foot, we were basically having shots at will. We turned the game completely on its head by half time. In fact, we needed more half times in the game. That's my one takeaway. We scored right before half time. They're the only times we scored in the game. We could have just done with more. They were good at the end of games, unfortunately for us, but we just needed more half times. Shit, I hate it. I'm really not enjoying talking about this game, to be honest with you. It's so difficult, but you know, Salah pounces on a Núñez save shot. It was good work by Joe Gomez actually, in the build up to that one, nicking the ball back, and it just looked so easy, John, didn't it, when we were in control, and we were massively in control the second half. We should have put them away. We looked
like from about maybe 15 minutes before the end of the first half, throughout most of the second half, it looked like we could score at will, and yet didn't, inexplicably. And the longer it went on, towards the end of the second half, I'm thinking, well, are they going to shut up shop now? I don't really want them to, but you know, maybe now's the time to, you know. And that's a stupid position to get yourself into when you dominate so much. You know, I was waiting for Szoboszlai to stroll through the empty spaces, smack one into the top corner, you know, or Núñez to get free and stick one in, but it just never happened.
What did you make of Núñez's performance?
I didn't like it much, to be honest. I didn't think he was in the game as much as I'd like him to be. I mean, he's captain chaos, as we've said before, but you can't create chaos if you haven't got the ball or you're not running at people, and I don't think he did that nearly enough. But, you know...
was that something Manchester United did? Because Klopp mentioned after the game that we had a bit of a problem with their sort of man-to-man marking system, or do you think it was...
I think their defensive setup was designed specifically, wasn't it, to keep Salah quiet and to keep Núñez quiet. And I mean, they didn't keep Núñez totally quiet. I mean, he had a couple of good shots, didn't he? Then a couple of good saves by Onana. But he wasn't rampant, and when you get all the space we were getting in the second half, that's when you expect to see him tearing down the wing or, you know, charging at people, and he did it once or twice, but you know, not really as much as I would have liked.
In the second half, Peter, we obviously changed it. We bring Gakpo on and all that type of stuff, and there's a time when Gakpo's on the right, there's a time when Gakpo's through the centre, Núñez is off the left, Núñez is through the centre. Did it feel like we'd sort of ran out of ideas during the second half and the extra time?
Yeah, it was odd, wasn't it? Like, as you said, we seemed to change positions a lot more than we ever normally do. Like, Salah had 2 shots on the left wing. I don't think I've ever seen him on the left wing, never mind have a shot from there. And it was that volley in the first half, wasn't it? And like, that would have been an unbelievable goal, which obviously I think you could almost see the pictures being framed from that moment there, but it just obviously didn't transpire. But yeah, I think Gakpo coming on, I think Carragher said he looked like he was playing slow motion, didn't he? And I don't want to like criticise him because I know he said the other day. I think he's the 5th best option of what we've got, and I think he's the 5th best striker any team could ever have. But obviously he didn't seem to like change the game. But I feel like the way we were playing as well, it was like the tempo he was playing is how we were playing. We were dominating the game and we were just trying to kill it. We were 5-0 up in a 2-1 scoreline. That's what it was, but it was just so odd. But yeah, just touching on Nunes as well, I thought he played quite well, if I'm being honest. I thought we said that Captain Chaos stuff. I think he seemed to link the play up a lot better than he has done in a long time. It seemed that 9 goals in 9 started really made him feel like I don't need to be the man who beats a man who is chaotic, who tries to have a shot from miles away. And I think that happened in the McAllister goal because it was in front of him. I think other times he's trying to control it or hit it on the swivel. He's that calm in his game. He's finding McAllister and sets a goal up. So maybe it was just too comfortable and we were all too relaxed, and that's why it went so wrong, I think.
Yeah, Dan, what did you make of him then? We didn't actually speak really too much about Nunes last night.
No, we didn't, did we? We touched on, obviously he ends up with, I guess 2 assists if you can call the second one the assist from his shot. And it's a decent effort, and Onana keeps, I think Onana actually had a good game, for as hilarious as some of his antics have been this season. He was actually quite good yesterday, unfortunately. I was relatively impressed with Darwin. I kind of agree with both points, but I think his link-up play was very good and sort of kind of better than we used to see, actually, in a way. But on the flip side of that, I love when Darwin obviously creates chaos, and we all often talk and wax lyrical about how much of a nightmare he can be for defenders. So I like both elements of his game, and there was more of one and less of the other yesterday. So I get both arguments on it. I think I was relatively pleased with him, if truth be told. I really like the moment where he leaves Varane for dead and gets a shot off. I think it's well saved again by Onana in their post, actually. Yeah, I think obviously you want him to be a match winner, and I think when you are dictating so much of the terms, but certainly in the second half, to come back to it, like it felt like we were in control. We should have won a canter, there's no two ways about that. Maybe you do want someone like Darwin Núñez to be central to winning the game, and I mentioned the same with Mo Salah. We had a very similar conversation. You want your attacking lads, you want your star players, you want your key men in the 4 positions to grab the ball and take the game by scruff and neck and go, hang on a minute, why aren't we winning by further here? Like, why is it not 4-1? So yeah, slightly annoying, but for what Darwin did and what he got involved in, I was really pleased with how he executed everything. So yeah, I was more than happy with him.
Yeah, I wasn't upset by what he did. I was upset by what he didn't do,
exactly,
which was the long periods when he wasn't involved in the game.
Fair point.
Yeah. That's all.
That's it. You'd expect Darwin to sort of pepper the goal or just get into those central areas probably a little bit more. That's what we've seen in recent weeks, isn't it? It was I don't know. I'm sort of probably in the middle, but like.
But I think the whole thing is difficult. I mean, I saw someone score a Mo 5 out of for the game, and I thought to myself, I didn't think he was anywhere near as bad as that. I thought, given he's coming back from a long layoff, the fact that he had Wan-Bissaka keeping him penned to the touchline, which is maybe why he turned up on the left a few times just to say,
away from
him. Follow me out if you want. I think the fact that he scored and they always worried about him. I think he was okay. I don't think he was setting the place alight, but I think if you can look at anyone in our team, you struggle to find anyone you'd say had a great game. We all played okay, but without going that extra little step that would have got us into the winning position. Yeah. I mean, you look at someone like McAllister and you have to say, I thought he had another good game, but we still didn't win the game.
I think it's the same the other way as well, so I don't think anyone played badly either, which is obviously, it was
exactly
results change how you look at every game. If we win that, I think everyone's talking about Salah being the first player, was it 5 seasons in a row to score there, and the way we were playing and the domination we had, it had been, we took the mick at Old Trafford, we kept the ball, we're into the semi-final, the quadruple's still on, but because they score more goals than us, they win the game, which obviously is the most simplistic way of looking at it, but I don't think it was as bad as, we didn't get battered and we didn't deserve to lose fully. I don't think it was as bad as many have looked at it.
Do you think there was something in, obviously, we can see the goal late on, 87 minutes. In years gone by, we've seen Dan Jürgen throw on an extra centre-half at times and go 5 at the back. I've seen him bring Matip on so many times with a couple of minutes to go. Clavan, Corker even at one point.
We went up top, to be fair.
Yeah. We didn't have those options available to us.
No.
Do you think that had an impact on the game? Because there's just Is there a centre-half on the bench?
No, not to my knowledge. Obviously,
Put Robbo there.
Robbo was the option. Obviously, you could have done something with Gomez at some point potentially, because you obviously got Conor Bradley, you've got Tsimikas, you've got fullback options to allow Gomez to move more central potentially. But
I think he changed Bradley on at 76, so
mid-70s, yeah.
And obviously we can see the 87.
Different game. Yeah, of course, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
At the point later on, was it Kwanzaa went down injured, and I thought to myself, who the hell are we going to put on in place of
It's probably Endo would have been it.
Endo
would have been.
Well, they ended up with Bruno Fernandes centre-back. So, yeah, no, maybe. And listen, I think the game management question has been raised a few times in the fallout from the game. I get it, I do. I don't completely understand the argument, particularly when you look at obviously how we end up conceding that what is eventually the winner. I'm not...
Sorry, hold that thought. On that 87th minute goal from Anthony, does anyone have a problem with Rashford not getting called offside, or is it just me being a salty bastard? Because can you remember Van Dijk's poor clearance because Rashford stood behind him?
Oh, I see.
In the lead up to that.
It clears, I know what you mean.
Why isn't that offside? He's had to deal with it, and he's not dealt with it well because he's like flung a leg at it because Rashford's behind him. Why isn't that offside?
Salah at that one, was it not the second half where Salah looked like a yard on and the linesman put his flag up?
Yeah.
And then we had it looked like the very first goal. We never really saw another angle of whether Rashford was off then. I think it was. Rashford got the last one, and then McTominay possible handball. But it seemed like Salah's goal got checked for about 25 minutes, didn't it? And then their ones just seemed to be, they must be fine.
That's
and
fine.
when you're watching it, because you're not getting the other angles back, you don't know, do you? You don't know whether you're being biased, but you'd like to know if you are being biased or whether it was a wrong decision. It's frustrating.
The Fernandes non-second yellow card for his tackle on Szoboszlai. The irony of that is, and the hilarity of it is, they checked that for a red card. And if I'm a referee and I've not booked him, and they check, I'm going to check this for red, I'm thinking, if they're checking for red, surely there's half a chance it might have been a yellow. Do you know what I mean? It's mental to me. But
he got booked. Sorry, to keep interrupting. He got booked for moaning, and he moaned about 5 times after that. So like the referee showed no consistency, which he never did.
You
just started that. Yeah, sorry.
Because it's so bizarre.
Yeah, but that's 6 we mentioned in about 40 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Every game's the same.
I know. That's terrible.
I'm fuming about the offside about Van Dijk, and
I can't
just
remember it,
annoys
to be
me.
honest.
It's a joke. He has to go for the ball because Rashford's there and he doesn't know whether he's offside or not.
But that one you mentioned as well, Peter, with the line that puts his flag up, that annoyed me because he was on, like you say. They don't put the flags up by a rule, like that's not what they do anymore. And I want to
but they do sometimes.
Yeah, but then I was like,
whatever they want to, basically.
It's so bad.
Well, I think Onana then spilt it, and Nunes was back post, and he never even had the shot because the flag was up and it stopped. So but you don't know what's going to happen. So consistency, that's what kills everything. And if they just did the same thing every time, you can't moan. But when's that ever going to happen, and when has it happened?
It doesn't.
Do you know what's really annoyed me the most? The fidget spinner got their goal to get him back in the game. That's the thing that's pissed me off the most. That absolutely useless wet lettuce, Anthony.
Did you see Romano's tweet? He made it out. He worded it as if it was good, and he was like, just scored his 2nd goal in all competitions this season. His 2nd, and it did that to us. Like, we shot ourselves in the foot yesterday, don't get me wrong, but when that lad is doing that, that is salt in the wounds territory. It's
a really good finish as well.
Yeah,
it's a really good finish. So it's now 2-2. The momentum, John, has completely changed. Old Trafford, as you mentioned before, it's baying for blood. It's going to be tough. It's another extra time for Liverpool after a few weeks ago in the Carabao Cup. The squad's dead at this point. There's lads who are going to have to go 120. Did you ever think then that Liverpool were going to get their noses back in front?
I did, because I think we're so much better than them. It was as simple as that. I just thought, when they came out, I did expect them to be on a high, because, the momentum comes with you when you score a late goal, a late equaliser. As you say, you get the crowd behind you. I expected them to come strong again, like they started the game. But I expected us to weather that and to calm it all down and to just cut through them. Because I'm always the optimist anyway, but... yeah, I mean, it didn't surprise me when we went ahead again. What surprised me was that we then lost it again.
Yeah. It was painful, wasn't it, then?
Yeah, it was brutal, and I'm still not sort of haven't still fully come to terms with it, to be honest with you. It's a sickener, it really is, and we're going to speak later on about what it means moving forwards and the fact we can't let it derail us and all that sort of stuff, and obviously the fact that my heart and head had just began to align with what was achievable, what was possible this season, and then to go out in those circumstances. And as you said earlier, and I think you're absolutely spot on, Pete, is that Liverpool play badly and lose a game, that I can deal with that. I can sort of make a peace with that. Arsenal game, for instance, we were terrible that day. They were better, sound, happy days. This wasn't that. This was us being in control of a football match for large parts of it and somehow conspiring not to win it. I don't quite know how. And the manner in which we do it, and again, shooting ourselves in the foot with poor decision-making, just not being ruthless enough in the final third, all that sort of stuff. But for 99.9% of that game, we were miles better than them in every single department. But then when it came to it, whether it be conceding the 2 goals, and obviously we'll speak about how we went about that as well, and it's just really frustrating and absolute sickening. And obviously the fact it's them makes it worse and all that sort of stuff. Then you see they get Coventry in the next round, and it's like, it's just piling up here. Like, how can this day get any worse? Like, it was just so disappointing. And it really, like, and given what we've been through as well over the past few weeks, to go out in that fashion against them, it feels horrible.
And I'm seeing, like, on YouTube and stuff, obviously the Man United YouTubers, it's the best game of football ever. It's the best game I've ever been to. I'm like, you fucking idiots. It was a quarter-final of the FA Cup. Like, I remember what you did in 1999, and you're comparing that. You were, like, there was
kids crying, wasn't there? Literally after
it was pulsating, you know, as a game for the neutral. It was a good game of football, and I'm sure if I'd
it wasn't even the best of the weekend.
No, maybe not. But if I'd have been able to
it wasn't even the best in the FA Cup that weekend.
I mean, they'll be made up into list viewing figures and all that. They'll be elated because it was, you know, as a spectacle between 2 of the biggest football clubs in the world.
We let that game get away from us. Exactly. That's what I can't get my head around.
No, exactly.
We shouldn't be. We're too good to get into this back and forth football match with Manchester United.
So they didn't beat us. We
beat ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
that's what's so annoying about it.
Yeah, and it's trying to figure out what it was. I mean, is it the fact that we played so many games with so many injuries and it just caught up with us, or what was it?
That's what Klopp said, wasn't it?
Difficult to say, but
Klopp can say that, right, and he's entitled to it, of course, but I can't get out my head that there was a really strong side put out in a game midweek. I really can't get that out of my head.
No.
Yeah.
And like, I know Salah wasn't supposed to play 90, but he ends up playing 90.
Well, that's the trouble with what happened, is that you end up with Salah playing 90 because of what's happened. If you'd started with a weaker team, then you'd probably have 4 different things to play with when Bobby Clark got injured. Yeah. As it was, you were stuck, weren't you?
And obviously hindsight,
in fact, if I was Klopp, I'd have played with 10. If Salah needed to come off, I'd have brought him off. We were like 12-1 up.
11-2, yeah. So.
The only thing I would say on that, and I get it, of course, but it was a 90-minute game of football, but for all intents and purposes, it wasn't. Yeah. It was like a 14-minute game of football and then like a 76-minute walk around the pitch.
Presumably the stuff about Salah was that the sports scientists had told him he can only play 60 or 70 minutes or whatever, then he has to come off. And they left him on because they didn't have another substitute. So the argument is, what comes first, his welfare and his future, or a game which is a dead rubber anyway? It just didn't make any sense to me. If he was supposed to come off, take him off.
Yeah.
If it was the United game and it's 3-2 to us, then fair enough, everyone stays on if you want them to stay on. But when you're at whatever the score was by that time, 11-2, then come on.
And that's it. And listen, don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed the Sparta Prague game. It was fantastic. I loved it. I was shocked at how strong a side we did put out, Peter. And listen, Jürgen has been incredible with the rotation of the side this season, the substitutions. He's got it absolutely spot on almost every single week. This week, though, I don't think he did, either in the Sparta game or actually in the Manchester United game, because the substitutes didn't make us better.
Well, I don't know. I think we were right to go strong because we had... He wanted to give minutes to injured players, and such as Salah and Szoboszlai. And as you say, if you bring them on at the hour mark, they can only play half an hour. If you start them, things can go wrong and they end up playing 90 minutes. So obviously it was a risk that he obviously wanted to take. I think it was fine to play them, but I don't... As you say, for how well he's done, obviously that doesn't mean you can't have a go at him for saying he's done something wrong, but I think we were right to go for it. I just think maybe him saying afterwards that fitness was the problem, and he fell out with the Danish Norwegian presenter because he was insinuating where he's tired. Well, I don't think you can say that and then play both. I think he was right to go strong, and I think obviously he probably should have took Salah Szoboszlai off at the hour mark regardless. Maybe even play 10 is probably not a bad idea now looking at where we are. But as I said before, we did actually play really well against United and dominated the game, and it's just the fact that we conceded a very late goal from Anthony when, as you say, maybe if he puts an offside flag up, we go, Klopp's got it absolutely right here, he's gone strong, he's shown respect to every competition, we want to win all 4, and that's why he's done it. And I don't think you can point too much of a finger at him when we are where we are at the moment.
I mean, to be honest, I don't care we're out of the cup. I'm quite happy not to have 2 tough games at Wembley for the rest of the season, because my priority is the Champions, the UEFA Cup and the Premiership particularly. So I'm quite happy to be out of the cup. It's just getting beat by United that bothers me. I hate it.
I love the reference to UEFA Cup and Premiership.
It's old school.
I loved it. Absolutely, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it is the UEFA Cup though, right?
No,
the trophy still is the UEFA Cup. It's the UEFA Cup.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
Absolutely. It was only the Premiership for like 2 years though. That's a good one.
It's stuck, isn't it?
Yeah, it's stuck. Yeah, it has. Okay. Right, there's a couple of things I still want to talk about on this game, and we will then move on, I promise you. Dan, first of all, the 5-on-2s and the 4-on-2s and the poor decision making.
Oh, yeah, they're going to haunt me. Yeah, brutal. And you know what? We've not been, for a side that was sort of past masters at capitalising and making those sort of situations count in years gone by. Obviously, the West Ham one springs to mind with Shaqiri, absolute wonder ball over the Salah and stuff like that. We feel like we missed out on a few of them. Obviously, the Arsenal one, we've had that game when Trent ends up hitting the bar. We've had a few of those types of situations that, for one reason or another, haven't quite been able to go to plan or been executed properly. And yeah, these backfire as well. And when we have been so dominant throughout much of the second half in particular, and we haven't been able to sort of find a way of making the scoreline reflect that, then you get hand-wrapped given an opportunity such as the ones we're going to talk about. It feels like you've got to make them pay and you've got to punish United for it, and we weren't able to do so. I think it's a Gakpo and Nunes that kind of breaks down. When Nunes gets his pass right, I think to Elliott, doesn't he? He gets the pass to Elliott anyway, but it's a little bit behind him. I'm not sure it's the right ball either, to be honest with you. So again, does that come from, speaking about tiredness and fatigue, there is that sort of blurred thinking. They can't quite slow themselves down. The decision making wasn't right. It feels like there was something amiss when it got into that situation whereby you need to be calm, you need to execute the right pass, you need to get it right, etc., etc., etc. It wasn't happening, and Gakpo's one, he just essentially stops, doesn't he? He gets caught up and the ball gets stuck under his feet and just adds to the frustration.
The annoying thing with the Gakpo one is that they execute a similar thing, Peter. Obviously, it's only a 2-on-1, but you engage the player in front of you. You don't slow down and let them
get back.
Yeah.
You've got to engage one of them, and Gakpo didn't. He failed to make a decision.
Yeah, it took too long. It kind of passed him by. He still made a pass, and again, if Nunes puts it in the top corner, we maybe say he got away with it or whatever. But yeah, I think with the Conor Bradley stop on as well, and then we seen I'm not having to go with him at all, but let's to stop, and then Elliott was out wide, and then we're trying to work it again. It just came and went. I think, as you say, for their one to win the game, that Bradley got back really well, and I don't think he probably didn't know, he probably couldn't hear that McAllister was behind him, because he had that half thought where he stopped, and then
he's going to cut back in.
Then Dalot goes again and then puts it past him, and good or bad finish, whatever you think of it. I think that was all that we were unlucky with there. But as you say, Gakpo's just got to be more direct. When we do those other ones here, you always think whoever's got the ball could score, never mind whatever it was, and Gakpo never looked like he ever thought he was going to be finishing that move off. And you say, if you're a defender,
he's in a bit of a trough at the moment, isn't he? Things aren't going right for him at the moment, and you wonder how that kind of confidence affects you eventually. But a lot of it was tiredness, I think. Poor passing.
But he shouldn't be. Gakpo should be the one who's the least tired.
I think Gakpo's problem is in his head at the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Scored twice in midweek though, just on that, because I felt like that.
I want to sound like I'm waiting on him.
You mentioned earlier on minutes in the legs of lads that needed it. I think minutes in the legs and confidence in Gakpo was pivotal in midweek. So the confidence is there, the lack of confidence rather. But
I think half his problem is that he's never in one position. I think he's a bit schizophrenic at the moment.
Well, Klopp took the blame, didn't he? He said it was my fault that I tried to make him a midfielder in the summer, so he's kind of lost the summer of prep as a striker. So he did say that himself. But he should still be able to pass a ball when we're 5-on-2 and kill the game.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's not positioning or problems or anything like that, is it? Okay. The flip side of this, of course, is the 2 goals that we concede in extra time. John, obviously, Nunes loses the ball for the McTominay to Rashford goal. I've got no idea what he's attempting here. It just
No,
seems really
just
lax.
shot ourselves in the foot, didn't we? Gives the ball away at a crucial time and leaves us totally wrong-footed for the whole thing. To be honest, I mean, most of the goals we've conceded this season have been the same. Mistakes by us rather than brilliance by the opposition. And that was another in a long line of them. I mean, and I'm saying that, I know we don't really concede that many goals. But to concede that one was criminal. Really.
Yeah, it was. And then Peter, Elliott and Endo mess up on the edge of the area. But when you talk about like the thought process for you behind throwing everyone forward, because I was okay with it last night. I don't mind Liverpool trying to win the game, but when it doesn't work, end the play. Like, get it out of there. You know what I mean?
But I don't know whether it's too nice to say or whatever. I think Endo and Elliott were too nice to each other. Do you know, I feel like you needed someone there who was willing to go and volley the other one because they want to take control. They were both like, should I have it? Should I? Oh, you have now, go on. And then that, even if you do that for half a second, that's what happens. That's what can happen. And that's why we lost it. It was... I don't mind us trying to win a game, as you say. That's what Klopp's team's built on. And, we all wanted to win all four, and we're doing it our way. We're going to try and trample on them. Obviously, if we'd shown that killer instinct a bit more in the second half, we just scored the third goal, and it wouldn't have been talking about. But yeah, it was maybe a bit naive to go all out when a game can change that quickly. But yeah, if I can just talk about the one before, was it a handball or not, McTominay? Did we know? Did we see that back? Because I just thought it looked very suspect the way he put his arm out.
It did look
never
suspect,
checked,
yeah.
but it was... I haven't seen an angle of that, so I'm saying I don't know if I'm wrong or...
My guess would be not enough for clear and obvious.
No, and it's quite close proximity from Nunes to the pass. It might potentially hit his arm as opposed to being anything other than that, but... Yeah, on Nunes, like it's a daft pass to even try and play. I think he's trying to pick up Wataru Endo in midfield, and in the circumstances so late in the game, it's a bit crazy to try and play that ball. As for Elliott and Endo, one of them needs to take charge of that situation, absolutely. And obviously, in terms of us trying to win it, no issue with that whatsoever. Again, that's kind of the way we go about our business. It's just backfired spectacularly, hasn't it? I thought Conor Bradley was unlucky. We touched on him last night. He's defended the situation pretty well up until the point whereby he hasn't, and the ball's in the back of the net. I think he's done all he can in that circumstance.
And seeing a breakaway goal from a corner against United's a real goal in the ball.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's bad, and it's backfired spectacularly, like I say. But again, just to round off really on what you just said there, like we should have been out of sight. That game should have been put to bed long before we got to that stage.
Yeah. McAllister did great as well. I think you should mention
for
how well he, like, you say how tired they all are. He's played so many minutes, hasn't he? And then you say that's the 120th minute.
He's just been getting better game on game.
He's tremendous, isn't he? One other thing that's coming out of the game, obviously we heard it on the television, the tragedy chanting. I've just got the BBC up now. You can show this if you want, please, Aaron. Greater Manchester Police arrested one person after alleged tragedy chanting during the FA Cup quarter-final between Manchester United and Liverpool. Offensive songs were allegedly heard. No, they were heard during United's 4-3 extra-time win over rivals at Old Trafford. We are familiar with fans taunting their opponents, but this is generally done in good humour and without offence. The incidents today crossed the line of what is acceptable. So the incidents did happen. Or are they alleged incidents? Sorry. Incidents of tragedy will not be tolerated and will be dealt with robustly. John, it was evident, and there might be probably 70,000 people.
Well, for the FA to come out and put a statement out says everything you need to know about it, really. But they were very, very clear or very careful not to mention Man United supporters. Just that tragedy chanting is wrong, and it's right that it's wrong on both sides. And I'm not saying there wasn't a Liverpool supporter doing the same. I don't know, but I know clearly they were, and we've seen stuff on social media of individual. Maybe there's one individual who obviously was basically saying "arrest me" on his shirt, wasn't he? Jumping up and down.
The fellow with his hand over his face and doing the pushing the wall things and stuff like that. How does it make you feel, that stuff?
I'm sort of a bit blasé about it now because it's just doesn't seem to stop. What it annoys me that I almost can understand United because there's been a bitterness between the two over the Munich and over Hillsborough and Heysel that they use as a weapon. I can't stand it when it's Fulham or it's Brentford or what's it got to do with them? The fact that they're just doing it to be nasty, they're not doing it because they've got an investment in it. United fans at least are having, they're just coming back at us for what we've given to them, and so it goes on. It's what happens with wars all the time, isn't it? One side has a go and then the other side has a go back. But some of these teams who chant about Liverpool when you go to their grounds, you think to yourself, why? What's that about? Get a life. Chant about your own team's brilliance. Why chant about starving Scousers?
Well, there's no excuse forever, though, is there, really? And I think as much as you say, maybe Liverpool fans, I never heard a single one or retort that we were singing Fergie's right, and then they come back with the sun was right, murderers. And then they're not saying anything back. I can't say that every single Liverpool fan there wasn't one person who made a reference, maybe, but
I think
percentage-wise,
I think we're better now. But I don't. 10 years ago, we weren't.
Yeah, but if that's what they should be doing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't be saying, because they have Munich. And
I agree with that. But all I'm saying is, I can understand it with United because there's a history. I don't understand it with other teams. They're just jumping on a bandwagon they shouldn't be getting on. And if we can stop it in every other ground, then you've got a better chance of working on it at Anfield and at Old Trafford.
What do you think is going to get done, Dan, if anything?
Well, I mean, if anything is the key to that, to be honest with you, because how many times have we seen this and statements and all that sort of stuff, and it never really seems to go much further, if truth be told. I mean, there should be countless more arrests than one. Let's put that out there for a start. Yeah, I think, banning orders would be the first protocol, to be honest with you. The people involved should never be allowed to step foot inside a stadium again, let alone Old Trafford. Beyond that, I don't know. Because you see people on social media, and I get it, and I understand it, and I'm with it in many senses, but people talking about sort of playing games behind closed doors, and obviously that happens a lot in foreign countries and different leagues and stuff like that, and point deduction, people go as far as is maybe a little bit extreme, who knows, because the problem is you start to really blur the lines then, how can you tell who, because you get rival fans going into home ends and doing this just to get the opposite. It becomes really, really messy. But like I say, I think football clubs themselves need to start calling it out for what it is more often than not, because even last night in the way, I don't know if Manchester United have done anything official on it yet, maybe they're waiting, who knows, but even the likes of what we do in fan channel and stuff like that, I think our weight behind it in terms of United fan channels yesterday, they should be flagging up. They're all laughing about the Klopp interview and stuff like that and saying, look what he's done, he's fuming. I get that. But whilst all that's going on and you're doing that, look at the bigger picture and look what the fans have been accused of today and what allegedly happened. Highlight that as well, but they don't go near it. And that's so annoying, because if more people said this is wrong, it needs stamping out the game, it can't continue to happen, eventually, who knows, we might get it out of the game, because you're right, it's been going on for years and years and years, and it feels like we're never getting any closer to eradicating it, and that can't be right.
No, I think there's another problem emerging as well now, is that we're sort of in the post stage where there are now supporters saying, oh, not bloody Hillsborough again, not all this, that's, we're fed up with it now, forget about it, stop talking about it, and blaming us instead of blaming the people doing the tragedy chanting. Yeah, exactly.
Even players, by the way, players could come out and say, don't do it. Ahead of a game like this, or in the aftermath of a game like this, if someone like Marcus Rashford, I'm not putting it all on him, but let's just say,
well, Dan, no, hang on. Jurgen Klopp came out and spoke about stuff for LGBTQ plus around Chelsea.
Yes.
And this is the type of thing that does educate. And I've seen Liverpool fans sing stuff after that, and other Liverpool fans police them.
Yeah.
And that's what you need.
You're right. If Marcus Rashford came out today and said, what happened yesterday, brilliant in terms of on the pitch, obviously, but the stuff that I heard or I've been made aware of or whatever that went on in the stands, that can't happen in future, that would carry weight. Not with everyone, obviously, because you're never going to teach some people, they're unteachable, but that would carry weight, that would have power, and then all of a sudden you would see more and more footballers following suit. You'd see these fan channels and people like us saying, yeah, you're right, journalists even of that side of the border, you know what I mean? But as it is, there's just this silence around it, because they know it's happening. They've seen the FA statement, of course they have, but they don't want to highlight it because it doesn't look good.
But they never do anything that makes people sit up and take notice. This will all be finished tomorrow. No one will take notice tomorrow. It's like your racism in foreign grounds. UEFA fined them like €3,000, as if that's going to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's just pathetic.
Well, it's the same thing with the referees when they're after something. When, you know, those few years ago where, I'm not saying this is the same, so apologies, but when they're looking for someone pulling on someone's shirt in a corner, the first 5 games of the season, they're on it, then they forget about it. It's the same with this stuff. They're on it for a couple of weeks, and then they just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you say about players speaking out though. Park Ji-sung has said stop singing that because what they sing about Liverpool fans eating rats and all that, because they sing about his culture of people eating dogs, and he's doing that's not what we do. I don't want to be associated with that. He's the person that they sing about. Like they never talk about them, but for some reason it's about us. But obviously the reason is they're trying to speak about poverty in Liverpool and all that nonsense. But it's just I say it doesn't change. We go to so many grounds where people sing it at us, about us, even when they come to Anfield and do it. And you saying before about having excuses, we never ever sing anything back. And I'm like, we're always the people, as they like to sing, always the victims. We're always the ones that are made to look bad because people come and sing it at us. And our retaliation is either singing about Tories or singing about Liverpool. That's all we ever do. And for some reason, it's our fault all the time for being the ones who had to live through events like Hillsborough, etc. And it just never goes away. But hopefully tragedy stuff is they're bringing it up now is going to make a difference.
Well, you'd hope so, but you know, I mean, it doesn't really look hopeful at the moment. I mean, after what happened yesterday, it was so horrible yesterday. Really.
But at least like obviously us talking about it's fine. At least the FA are making a statement, and it wasn't like a push for everyone saying they should be releasing a statement. It was straight away they did it, and that has changed. That is different in the last 2, 3, 5 years. That is a big change, and it's a positive one.
Yeah, so,
but it's always the problem. I think that it's always whataboutery, isn't it?
Every time.
And rather than just accepting that you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I know that when Suarez did what he did against Manchester United, I was in the wrong then. Like, you know, I backed Suarez, and then with the fullness of time, you realise that actually all of us were probably in the wrong. I certainly was. I won't speak for everybody. But it's having that sort of acceptance that you're not right all the time. And the heat of the moment does, unfortunately, and the siege mob mentality sometimes gets it. But these people aren't like kids that are doing it. Like, I've made mistakes obviously in the past, and which is why I feel always terrible talking about the LGBTQ plus stuff, because of my prior mistakes, you know, from 10 years ago now it was. I never feel like I'm in a position where I can actually talk about something like that, because the damage that I did for something like that 10 years ago. But I think in these instances, like, kids make mistakes, but these aren't kids. This is almost everybody at Old Trafford singing it again and again and again. Yeah. And the whataboutery doesn't really exist because we haven't been singing the Munich chants. And we shouldn't do either, by the way. And I never want us to go back to that world, because it's terrible.
Yeah.
No, like it affects people's lives, and it affects their mental health, and it's football, and we all love it, and we're all pissed off that we got beaten by Manchester United, but that hurts more than the footy result. Yeah. Because of, you know, people who've been there, and you know, people who are hurting now, who it dredges everything back up, all these things that have been going on for years and years and years, and they just need to put a pin in it and stop it and fucking grow up.
That's what it comes down to. And there's no understanding. They need to learn actually what it is, because half of them don't understand what it means. They don't understand why they're singing it, a lot of them inside the ground.
But it even continued when they'd won.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think they'd change to, you know,
celebrating their own success.
Do you know what it is? That's a small club mentality.
Yeah.
It's point scoring. It's point scoring. But the whataboutery, you're absolutely spot on. Absolutely, like I can't abide it. You bring it up in certain factors. I've got a couple of friends who are amongst for my sins, and you mention it to them post match, and you talk about the game, and you know, credit to you won the game. You know, you showed loads of spirit, loads of character. Well done, chapeau. Then you say, but you know, what about this? And like, but this, and that's not how this. Can we have a grown-up conversation about this? Like, what about this? Just say how bad it is. You don't need to say this happened 10 years ago. Just admit that's abhorrent, it's vile. They can never do that.
No, I mean, I've got a brother-in-law who's a Man United supporter, and had a big sort of WhatsApp argument because he started throwing up stuff from Heysel and murderers and all that stuff, and I said, why you got this stuff on your computer? But he's kept it. so we can throw it up. But you say this about us, so we're going to say this about you.
Very strange.
And this is like, it's not like it was long since he was a teenager, but that's what it's about. I mean, it's some kind of, I don't know what it is. It's just bizarre.
It's a football. It should be a football rivalry, and it's much more. And it's got into point scoring. It never should do. Anyway, we're gonna have a little break. Let things cool down a little bit before we talk about the immediate future. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the chase for the treble now, the Europa League draw, the Champions League draw, how that affects Premier League and the international break. So yeah, check out this month's Club Legend competition before we come back.
Hey all you wonderful people, we've got an amazing competition prize for all of the Legend tier subscribers on Redmen Plus this month. I was lucky enough to interview former Liverpool striker and World Cup winning German superstar Karl-Heinz Riedler and get him to sign this little beauty. Oh yes, look at it. It's a sensational shirt anyway, but it's got Karl-Heinz Riedler's name on it, and you can win it by being a Legend tier subscriber on Redmen Plus by the end of this month. And yeah, your name will be in the draw to win this. Look at that. Wonderful. And it can be yours. Hey Dublin, what's happening? The Redmen TV are coming to your town the 25th of March. We're going to be at the Academy bringing fun Liverpool chat and Liverpool singing sensation Keo as well. It promises to be the biggest party Dublin has ever seen. That is not a guarantee, but my God, we're going to try. Grab your tickets right now. Go to ticketmaster.ie and search Redmen TV. Grab them and we'll see you there.
Hello, welcome back. We're going to talk the immediate future for Liverpool Football Club. Before we do, though, I've got this fantastic book by author Peter Kenny Jones.
Good guy.
He's a nice guy.
No,
isn't
he's
he?
sound. Good footwear as well, I've noticed.
Oh, mate.
No, he's a sound fellow as well. He's a good writer. More importantly, he writes good books.
Shall we say you've said it now? We're going to have to tell
Someone's gonna have
everybody
to say
what's happened. Can Peter put him in? Put him in.
Go on.
That's right.
There you go. Come in, John.
I can take it off of
There's
you.
a story behind that footwear.
Peter came in and
Just
forgot to put shoes on.
No, I
when he
came
left
in
the
with
house.
shoes on. I wasn't barefooted when I walked in, to be fair. I
just happened
was
to
very
have his
comfortable
slippers.
in the house. I went from the outside into the garage. These are me outside to garage shoes, because I also have slippers in the house and garage slippers.
Oh, you've
and
got garage
other work
slippers?
slippers as well. Yeah, so these are
Plot
me.
thickens here. Look at John's face. So you got
These are
garage
me.
Three pairs of
just
slippers.
thought he's
Yeah,
got
so
a
I
garage.
have work slippers, house slippers, garage to back door slippers, and
You
then
got
garage
sex
slippers.
slippers as well.
Hang on. I need to unpick this. Work slippers.
The book on it, yeah.
No,
How many messages?
Work slippers.
Yeah, so like
Are
I
they
feel
different to your
comfortable.
house slippers?
Yeah, because well, kind of, because I
Do you work
them.
at home?
Yeah.
And he writes.
My house slippers I wear out the
I'm going to get ready
house.
for work now, love. Where are the work slippers?
So
Can't
work,
find them anywhere.
work
Gonna be
slippers
late. Gonna be late.
work slippers are solely in work mode. House slippers I can wear out the house. The garage to back door
Wait,
slippers are.
how can you wear house slippers outside the house?
Well, because I can't have another pair of slippers. It's ridiculous.
That'd be ludicrous. That'd be so
How many pairs of slippers do you think I've got? Yeah.
That'd be so silly. 4. 3's fine.
And the garage will be Homer Simpson slippers, because they don't really travel well, but they keep your feet warm. It's a bit cold in the garage.
Anyway,
Wild.
the book.
Anyway, the book, yeah,
No,
written
I've
by
got
an
slippers.
absolute madman called Peter Kenny
There's
Jones.
a great chapter on slippers.
It's about sweepkeeper Tommy Lawrence. Available in all good bookstores, some of the shit ones as well, and probably Amazon.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's been delayed on Amazon, so you're better buying it through me for financial reasons and for
Your
for
financial reasons
yeah,
or
of
the
course.
customers?
So you can buy an extra pair of
yeah.
slippers, isn't it?
Help a man buy his 5th pair of slippers. Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
it
yeah, but-
their book now?
Yes, their book. So it's comes out 25th of March. If you would like a copy, that'd be great.
Okay, so get in touch with you on...
Just put Peter Kenny Jones on Google, and I think it would come up quite high on my website, and then that's the best place. Or I've got a launch at the church on the Friday the 5th of April, and that is the cheapest way to buy the book. You can get it with the ticket on Skiddle, or you can buy it on the night. And I've got some former players, all stuff, and it's all proceeds to the Spirit of Shankly Former Players Fund as well.
Okay, and is there a chapter on slippers?
No, that's the next book. Yeah,
Okay,
that's the next
sounds
book.
excellent. I look forward to that one. It'll be a short story, I'm sure, but we look forward to it. We're going to talk about the chances of winning a treble, Dan. But first, I want to get everybody's opinion, and we'll start with you. Did you actually think Liverpool could win a quadruple this season? And I say a quadruple because it's not the quadruple.
Yeah, no, I did. Absolutely did. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it, despite it now being a thing of the past. Obviously started off as a bit of a pipe dream, there's no two ways about that. Particularly when you give it right back to the start of the season, obviously all the upheaval of key players leaving, new captain, all that sort of stuff, and the midfield rebuild and general overhaul that we underwent last summer. You think, okay, kind of steady the ship again now, get back on track, top 4 finish, who knows, have a good run at a cup, and the Europa League is a very realistic possibility given the calibre of football club that we are and all that sort of stuff. No arrogance, no snobbery involved there, of course, but yeah, and then the more you get into the season, you think, okay, hang on, this is really possible. And then this week, I know you want to touch on European draws in a minute, but my estimations and my beliefs of what is achievable have steadily increased over the past few weeks, given the fact that we've had so much adversity, so many key players missing, yet we still managed to overcome challenges and navigate the situation. I've just been like, okay, this is very possible now. And then the Europa League draw happens, okay, that's nice, that's favourable. Champions League draw goes, you think, okay, that's really tough for them. So yeah, as I said earlier, my head and my heart were just beginning to sort of align into terms of we can really do this, and I was just starting to make myself really believe it was a thing. And I think had we have got through yesterday and overcome Manchester United, I'd have been sat here today saying I think we might do it. Not just it's possible, I'd have been genuinely really, really confident. And as it is, obviously I'm really confident of what we can do and achieve Premier League and Europa League wise, but in terms of the quad 24 hours ago, yeah, I would have been sat here saying, yeah, we can absolutely do it all.
Peter, were you the same? Were you thinking we could win all 4? Because it is ridiculously hard.
Of course it is, yeah.
It can and will is different today. Yes, I think we could. I think the beating Chelsea the way we did with the kids we had on the pitch in the Carabao Cup final, so if we can do that, that's surely the worst the squad's going to be any point this season. So why can't we then go and do the rest? I think obviously missing the round in the Europa League took a lot of pressure off that we had less games to play, and obviously you need a lot of games to win all the cups. And then the FA Cup, I think we can beat anyone, and
players coming back as well.
Yeah, of course, we're only getting better, and that's what I found. The confidence is getting better, the momentum is getting better, and as Jurgen Klopp told us to believe that we can do stuff, and I believe that we could win all 4. And now I'm fully on board that we can, and we will go win all 3. And as soon as another one ends, it'll be we can win the double, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But I'm always confident that we can do everything that's possible.
John, what about you? Did you think we could win the quad?
I did, because we don't lose football matches. Well, we didn't. I mean, we've lost 1 this season legally and 1 illegally. And we're coming to the end of March. I mean, that's the kind of form which wins you trophies. I fully believe that if we could get past United, we would win the cup. Because I don't think City would beat us in the final. If it was the final or the semi-final, we got them. We didn't know at the time. So I did think the quadruple was on. Whether it's a good idea to go and win the quadruple, I'm not convinced. After what happened last time, where you play every game of the season and the next season, half your team are burnt out. I think this team are younger than they were. And maybe that's what Klopp's thinking is in bringing through so many kids, that he's building that squad up, to cope with this next season when there's a lot of possibility of people having tired legs and stuff. But yeah, this team is capable of anything, I think. I do honestly believe as well that if we were in the Champions League this year, we'd win it.
Mm. Wow. I absolutely do. Yeah. I absolutely did. Sorry, I definitely don't think we can still do the quad. I think we could have won the quad. I think we were good enough. It felt like the momentum was there, but I also feel like, not to echo what you guys are saying, to say something slightly different, is I actually think, and I said this to you last night, I think yesterday was a teaching moment for Klopp and for some of the young players, and a moment that you'll look back on and go, well, if Liverpool do achieve everything this season, it's probably more likely that you're going to win a treble, if you can even do that, than win a quadruple. So use this, make yesterday matter for something other than just the defeat in the FA Cup quarter-finals to Manchester United. Hold on to that pain, make sure that every player remembers what it felt like at the end of that game, and remember what it felt like at the end of the Carabao Carabao Cup final and ask them which they want to fight for this season. And you know, the Carabao was one thing, but the Premier League and a UEFA Cup is massively better than that, isn't it? It's much better than that.
And everyone says a treble is really difficult to win, because it is. You look how many teams win 3 trophies in a season. You know, very few and far between. So to win 4, that's a real hill to climb. You know, so no shame in not actually managing it. You know?
No, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the Europa League draw then. Dan, obviously, we've had the draw now. Liverpool have drawn Atalanta, and we will face them on the 11th of April and the 18th of April. And then it'll be either Benfica or Marseille if we progress. Milan, Roma, Leverkusen, West Ham. Milan, the winner of Milan, Roma versus the winner of Leverkusen versus West Ham United. We couldn't really have asked for a better draw, could we?
No, dream draw. If I may be so bold, it genuinely couldn't have gone better. Not in just getting Atalanta. I think the half of the draw we ended up on as well has been absolutely perfect. They really do. And the road to Dublin has become ever so slightly more straightforward, and that's not taking anything for granted, of course it isn't, but when you look at Atalanta, sort of their European pedigree and where they are in Serie A right now, I think they're 6th and not in great form either, so it's absolutely perfect. And you know, there's a world whereby with half an hour to go at Anfield in the second leg, you know, that tie potentially wrapped up and signed, sealed, delivered, which would be absolute joyous, of course. That would be the dream scenario, and not suggesting that's going to be done either. It's not a foregone conclusion, but yeah, it couldn't have gone any better. And I think even, you know, when you look at potential, you know, if I get ahead of myself slightly, look at potential final opponents, like, it's hard to pick from the other half of the door who they may be. I think Bayer Leverkusen would remain the favourites, but their pathway and their route to meeting us in the final is really difficult all of a sudden. And if we're looking at Liverpool being favourites for the competition outright and then Bayer Leverkusen in below us, that formality, or what has been billed as a formality in the scriptwriter's dream as a Leverkusen-Liverpool final, is no longer that. It feels really complicated.
Is tough. West Ham's really tough as well. They've not been knocked out of Europe for a couple of years.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, the prospects of us getting to the final have gone up a couple of levels, and that's more likely than it ever has been. Whereas Bayer Leverkusen's chances of reaching a final have diminished somewhat. So our chances of winning it, therefore, have also increased. So yeah, I'm made up with a draw. It couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah. What do you think about Atalanta as a draw then?
Yeah, it was maybe not like the romantic of ones. There seemed to be a lot of backstories written into a lot of other ones, and Atalanta, an alright team in Italy who we've only ever played twice, and it was, I think that obviously we won 5-0 and then lost 2-0, but the loss was in the midst of a defensive crisis, and so it's all like, you know, it doesn't seem like a poetic story. Obviously we're thinking it's going to end with Bayer Leverkusen in Dublin, and Alonso's going to be unveiled as Liverpool manager and lift the cup with Klopp. Like, you know what, people are fairy tale ending it all. Atalanta feels just like it's a game of football we should go and win, and that's probably exactly what we want. So yeah, happy for it. Obviously you'd rather Anfield second leg. I think it's Anfield first leg, is it? That's correct. Yeah, so that's obviously the only downside to it, but I think the semi-final second legs at Anfield, so you can imagine the atmosphere then, and even when we beat Villarreal the other year to get to the final, that was amazing, wasn't it? So yeah, let's go and let hopefully go and just stamp our mark on a competition we're clearly favourites for, and we have even more reason to be even more favourites now. So yeah, it's a good draw.
John, moving on slightly and talking and bringing the Champions League draw in, because Dan mentioned it before, it couldn't really have got better for Liverpool, could it? In terms of the Champions League draw with Arsenal and Manchester City, and them potentially having a semi-final against each other if they were to both progress.
Yeah, I mean that was really the only real interest left for us in it, to see whether Arsenal and City would be drawn together, and there's a strong possibility that they will. But they've both got two tough games either way. You know, it's a tough quarter and a tough semi. And the other side of the draw looks a lot easier, doesn't it? It looks like whoever wins through will get to the final as favourites. So they're going to have to really battle. And it means for us, I mean, it'd be great if they got each other in the semi, you know, and have that 2 legs of that really intense at that horrible time of season just before it finishes. But even if they don't do that. They've still both got tough games.
Yeah, obviously Manchester City having Real Madrid and Arsenal having Bayern Munich. I've got the fixtures up in front of me for all three sides. I don't know whether you can see that, but I had to put an Excel spreadsheet together with everything. Obviously you can see the Atalanta fixture there for Liverpool, Real Madrid either side of Luton for Manchester City, Bayern Munich either side of hosting Aston Villa, and then the potential Arsenal or Bayern Munich for City, potential Real or Man City for Arsenal, either side of Bournemouth for Arsenal, Wolves for Manchester City, but crucially ahead of Manchester United for Arsenal if they were to progress. And actually the Tottenham game will be moved as well, because that was due when Man City played Chelsea at home in the FA Cup. So there's only two midweeks free for Man City and for all the sides. The 24th of April is one. That's heavily rumoured to be Liverpool versus Everton. And the 15th of May. Now, depending on where that is and who's where, I mean, they could play Tottenham, Manchester City on the 15th of May. But Man City now, if they get through against Real Madrid, will not have a midweek free between now and the end of the season, which is absolutely insane. So all that to say, Dan, it might have helped Liverpool, the Champions League draw, in the fight for the Premier League title.
Yeah, absolutely, it might have. And I'm firmly of that belief as well, to be honest with you. I mean, John references it there, he alludes to the fact that all their games left in the Champions League, the final, who knows, that remains to be seen, but their potential opponents now, they all feel like real stiff tests. And how often do we sit here and say, all we want Man City is to come up against a challenge, whether it be Premier League games or cup draws or whatever. We just want teams to take them to the wire and make them overexert themselves, because too often down the years when we have gone in these toe-to-toe battles with Manchester City, it's been like most of the time they blow teams out the water, and the rest of the half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it may be, is a stroll in the park for them. So the fact that it looks like, at least on paper, they're going to have potentially 4 real ding-dong battles in Europe ahead of Premier League games either side is massively, massively important to me. And, you know, again, to put a real positive spin on the FA Cup exit yesterday, the fact we don't have a fixture then is a bit of a bonus for us if you're really going to, you know, be glass half full on it all and rose-tinted glasses and all that stuff. So yeah, I think the exertion that Manchester City look like, and Arsenal indeed look like, they're going to have to be gone through in the next few weeks, compared to what in theory and in practice Liverpool won't have to face. Looks like it's advantage Liverpool.
Peter, I've got a horrible question for you, so apologies in advance for this one. Would you like to see one of Manchester City or Arsenal get to the Champions League final because of what it means for Liverpool's Premier League hopes?
Well, yes, in the sense that it means it'd be, if it means that it's City Arsenal in the semi, because I'm happy for one of them to go through, and even if it means they win it, I don't really care if we win the Premier League. It's all about us, and obviously we're not playing them, so yeah, I'll trade that all day. Whatever makes it more difficult for them and more football and less chance of them winning the league, then yeah, I'll take it.
So you'd be comfortable with City winning the Champions League back to back as long as Liverpool win the Premier League?
Yep.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Would you take Arsenal though over them winning it?
So, this is the thing with Arsenal, is that one of my best mates is an Arsenal fan, and if they win the Champions League and they win all the league, I actually think I'd rather City win either over them, just because Arteta's going to rival what Klopp's done. I'm not saying he does. I don't think he will, but I think if they've won a Champions League and we don't win anything this season, he can put his CV up next to it in a very short one and go, well, I've won the same amount.
I think it's mute anyway, because I think either City or Arsenal are going to win it anyway, regardless. And I think probably City.
I think Real Madrid could beat both of them, couldn't you?
I can't imagine. I've seen the
Bellingham
way they played last time.
Well, I know, yeah. That's it, isn't it?
Bellingham's there now, though.
And he takes his pull shirt off.
I don't want City to win a coin toss, much like I don't want Man United to win a coin toss.
I don't want them. I'd rather they got
that wasn't the question. I never said want to, yeah.
Can I offer a different side of things? I can make more peace with City winning the Champions League because I can write it off file it under 115.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And
whereas Arsenal become a real problem forever if they win a Champions League.
It's true that if you win the Champions League, you're a different club afterwards, and I think that's why it was always great that City never won it. You know, now they've won it, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
You know, their supporters are different. You know, the supporters only ever wanted to win the league because
There's
of
less
what it meant
empty seats
against
now, though,
United. Now they want to win the Champions League every year.
It's true. So yeah, in a cruel twist of fate, I somehow now
Let's hope it's
feel
Real.
more comfortable with City.
Well, the other half of the draw is the one we want, the PSG.
But then
Yeah.
the City,
Don't want
the Real
any.
Madrid thing though means that City then get 2 games off,
Yeah.
I don't want
and
Yeah,
that doesn't help us
Oh, yeah,
in the race for
I'm not going to be
the
cheering them on, but I want City Arsenal semi-final. and then lose the
yeah,
final.
yeah,
I'm not going to be at home with me sky blue scarf going, hopefully get through. But
I think
It's an ideal world. A City Arsenal semi-final, Arsenal progressing, get beaten in the final again.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because City won't lose the final.
No.
Arsenal have got a chance of losing
Yeah,
the
I
final.
agree. And probably PSG, maybe we'd say. And I hate PSG.
No, they're the worst. They're just a 90. They were made in
But
1975.
real-
They're like a massive club.
Man City with 2012. But realistically, that feels like the only possible outcome. Because I don't think Barcelona are going to be good enough. And PSG aren't good enough, don't get me wrong, but they have got
Barca
Kylian
beat
Mbappe.
Arsenal in the final last time.
Yeah.
Paris.
Was Van Persie wrong, was it, when he got sent off? Like,
Almunia got sent off. Yeah.
but I don't think any of the other teams
No,
have got
Lehman got sent off.
the
Sorry.
quality. I don't think any of the other teams have got the quality to beat Arsenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or City, for that matter. Whereas PSG don't, but also they own Kylian Mbappe. So
Right,
could.
who's in the other side of the draw? Because I took no notice of that.
Dortmund, Barcelona,
PSG.
Atletico.
Dortmund.
and Atletico.
Atletico could do Arsenal.
That'd be so
Yeah.
sick.
In a final, they
Atletico could do
Yeah.
Arsenal.
Simeone shithousing his way to a Champions League trophy.
And then walking
I'll
off
be there.
in his black suit, black tie, black shirt combo.
I
Never
love
to
him,
be
you
seen
know. I love
again.
him,
He's
you know.
fantastic.
He's horrible, but he's brilliant at the same time.
I like any manager that books the trend, to be honest, and he's been booking the trend for years.
Hated him at Anfield that day, though.
Oh, God.
That Beckham documentary,
I
we seen that.
exaggerate
How great that he's just laughing at the fact that like he agreed to go on the documentary to talk about it, and just laughing everyone's face is great to him. Yeah,
He's
It's
an absolute
easy to hate player.
scumbag.
He is.
Okay, we'll move on. We're going to talk international break then, John. Now, chance to get some more players back. Again, we're talking,
Except for Gomez.
except for Gomez.
Yeah, he always gets injured when he goes.
Oh, yeah.
He gets injured for like 2 years every time he goes to play for England.
God's sakes, don't,
You've
John,
got to touch wood
don't.
also, really quick.
Touch wood, he doesn't.
Has he been called up then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Joe Gomez, yeah.
Has he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, about England or anything. I should know about Joe Gomez.
You care about Joe
of course.
Gomez, though?
Of course,
It's
care about
nice
Joe
for him,
Gomez.
yeah.
Has Sterling been called up?
No, he said, got to find that ball.
He'll be a while.
He's on the missing list trying to find that free kick.
I was watching Constellation last night on Apple TV. Have you seen that? And
Yeah.
obviously when he come back in and through the atmosphere, and I think
the
that's what
ball.
Sterling's ball would have happened. It will have burnt up as it
there with Charlie Adams'
re-entered
pen.
the atmosphere or something like absolutely ridiculous. That was one of my highlights of the weekend actually, which we'll talk about later. But that free kick was an absolute perler, wasn't it? International breaks, a chance to get more players back except Joe Gomez apparently.
Yeah. I don't know whether there's a chance to get more players back or not, is it? Because you have so many players who go off on international duty, and it's a wing in the prayer how many of them come back and how many of them come back fit. You know, so I hate it. Can't stand it.
Klopp hates it, but I don't know if this is a good thing, but it's going to be his last
We
one.
will.
Last one, yeah.
Yeah, we will have the likes of Trent and hopefully Jota, Curtis not going away and therefore getting a chance to get themselves ready for their next few games, which is obviously great news. You just do worry every time you got a football. I used to Fernando Torres, every time he went away with Spain, he got injured. I just can't stand it. It drives me mad.
Especially these ones. I mean, I know that Endo is going for qualifiers, but other than that, they're just friendlies, aren't they? And that's a really annoying thing, Dan, is that. But Klopp might be clever here. If it's one time to put your foot down and not care about ruining the relationship with your international teams, keeping a few players back here would be pretty smart.
He has no reasons to maintain good relations with international managers now, does he? Because it won't be his problem in a few months' time. And no, and he obviously mentioned
Might
last
be
night.
one though.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. He might come across him in a different sphere. Yeah. He mentioned last night, obviously in the wake of the game, it was a Diaz groin problem, a Nunes hamstring discomfort, and Cody Gakpo. But Cody Gakpo has not been called up to touch squad anyway, I don't think, and twisted ankle. So yeah. But hopefully he's being smart and trying to not get the first two called up. I've seen reports from Colombia talking about Luis Diaz potentially not going as well. And the most annoying thing about this particular international break, although I do think it's come at half a good time for Liverpool as well, we can galvanise the squad and get players back and all that sort of stuff. But if you looked at some of the fixtures these lads are playing, I know England have got two relatively reputable games.
Forgot?
Uruguay, if Darwin does go, are playing the Basque country
Okay.
and Ivory Coast in Finland, and the Basque country. I'm not saying words there. That's a thing that's happening. And I think obviously you mentioned Japan was how it went. They've got 2 qualifiers against North Korea. Yep. And I think Colombia played Romania.
Not in North Korea.
Spain, yeah. So
7-0.
proper
It won't matter
outrageous
what
games.
the score is because the people of North Korea will only find out that they won.
Yeah, they've won the game. I think they've won 4-0 already. And Argentina are playing, I think, El Salvador, and I think it's Costa Rica. So, yeah, that's fine. But the Basque country really threw me. Like, really.
Is it Barca's reserves? Or?
I don't know.
Bilbao.
Bilbao. It's Atletico Bilbao.
They only have teams
play.
that players come from the Basque, which is great, by the way.
I think
Xabi Alonso, wasn't he?
Yeah, they stopped it. Yeah,
they stopped it. They did stop it. I thought
they
had.
did change the rule. That's because I saw was it the other day? It's like 31-year-old Pep Guardiola bossing the midfield for Catalan 11, and they got beat 4-1 by Brazil, didn't they? So I think it's probably going to be one of them. You might get 1 or 2 odd players, but yeah, Nunes hat-trick hopefully. But yeah, well, hopefully Nunes hat-trick of Chewy's on the bench.
Peter, do you know when the lads are likely to come back?
Yeah, I haven't texted any of them. Like, it's supposed to him. It's him. Yeah, they're not far off the game. It's the South Americans are always the worry, and it's when they're travelling. It's because it's on a Sunday for once, isn't it? We have actually got half an extra day, haven't we? When we got the 12:30 kickoff, remarkably. So it's going to be
considered that.
Yeah, so it's Easter Sunday, the game before City against Arsenal at Anfield.
That's
so
just to put the pressure on type of game, isn't it, really?
Massive. Yeah, it's quite a good one, really, because you know you're going to have to be up for it. The crowd's going to be up for it, obviously, anyway, but they're going to be even more up for it because we want to be top of the league when that game kicks off, don't we? So it's just wrap them all in cotton wool, and hopefully, as you say, Jürgen lies and cheats and tells them all that none of them are fit enough, and he upsets everyone, and we've got a fully fit squad.
Absolutely. Okay, well, there you go. That has been the podcast for this week. We'll be off to do the biased football show next. We'll be talking the FA Cup draw. We'll have a little chat about Spurs and Villa, their faltering form, whether they've left the door open for Manchester United. We'll discuss the other FA Cup ties, of course. Thanks for joining us on this one. I've been Chris Pajak. That's Dan Club, Peter Kenny Jones, John Machin, and of course, go and check out Peter Kenny Jones' fantastic Tommy Lawrence book, The Story of Liverpool and Scotland's legendary flying pig. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all soon. Ta-ra.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the content today. If you want to get your name in and amongst these wonderful people, then head to redmenplus.com. Join as a Legend tier subscriber. You're going to get free merchandise codes. You're going to get in our Discord, and you're going to get your name at the end of YouTube videos. Yes, redmenplus.com, Legend tier status.